you can unleash our warfighters. And in doing so, President Trump has some very basic guiding principles. First is America and Americans first. America and her security, her citizens, and her workers first, which is long overdue. The second principle, front and center, peace through strength. At the War Department, we are the Strength Department. Our job is to be the hammer when necessary and hopefully not have to use it. But if we do, we'll fight to win. Not politically correct wars, not with one hand tied behind our backs. Fight overwhelmingly, violence of action at the decisive point to win, giving our commanders everything they could conceivably need to include the authorities to close with and destroy the enemy. And our enemies know that. And so in doing so, you establish or reestablish deterrence, whether it's at our southwest border, whether it's drug boats that shouldn't be running drugs in our hemisphere, whether it's Operation Midnight Hammer, 37 hours of beautiful B-2s, precision drops right into Iran and back before they even knew it, whether it's the Houthis and reestablishing freedom of American shipping, whether it's Maduro in Venezuela and a raid that no other country on planet Earth could conceivably execute, we are reestablishing deterrence, which is peace through strength. Because we had 4 years of war in Ukraine that never would have happened under President Trump, October 7th in Israel with Hamas, the debacle in Afghanistan, the invasion on our border, no more. No more political correctness, overwhelming deterrence. And from us to you on your front, as it applies to peace through strength, that means less red tape, more incentives, and more speed on the factory floor. And of course, alongside America First and peace through strength is a very simple but not so common ingredient in Washington, which is common sense. We're applying common sense across the priorities of the department. And that's why we're here on the Arsenal of Freedom tour. In fact, stop after stop on this tour, we go to companies, major companies, large and small, and said, when's the last time a secretary was here? Big shipbuilders, builders of vehicles, innovators, subs, you name it. And they say never. Well, why not? Because there hasn't been a focus on the kind of innovation and speed that's required, that President Trump is requiring me to bring back to our defense industrial base. That's why we're here in St. Louis. That's why we're doing this over the next couple of months. Because we are required, given the moment that we're in the world today, to move fast, at scale, under cost, so that we can compete and outcompete America's adversaries. We are rebuilding the arsenal of freedom. President Trump did it in his first term, and we're going to do it again. And as you may have heard, the One Big Beautiful Bill provided $25 billion worth of investments. This ought to ring true to this audience. $25 billion worth of investments in military aircraft. And it didn't just, this isn't just us working and rowing in the right direction. By the way, 0 Democrat votes for the One Big Beautiful Bill. But there are a lot of yes votes. Representative Jason Smith of the 8th District and chairman of the very powerful House Committee on Ways and Means. Representative Mark Alford of Missouri's 4th in the House Appropriations Committee. Representative Mary Miller, Illinois 15. Thank you for being here. And of course, Representative Bob Onder of Missouri's 3rd. Thank you. We need allies in Congress in order to make things like this happen. And of course, in the Senate, thank you, Senator Schmidt, from day one for your efforts on the Committee on Armed Services. We went through a heck of a confirmation hearing together. But you've been strong and steadfast and a supporter of this president from the beginning. Missouri's fortunate to have you. And you're right. He was in my ear on the F-47 from the minute I got this job. And one thing I'll say to him, what I said to him then, and I say to everybody throughout, is, you know who's going to win? The best product. The best product's going to win. Because my job is not to a company, not to, I love you, but not to a senator or not even to a state. It's to the best capability to the warfighter. And what was clear, unambiguously clear, when it came to this F-47, Boeing was the best one to deliver. And so you won. And as you know, President Trump announced a goal of $1.5 trillion for our national security and defense in 2027. That kind of money sends a message to the world. Now, our job is to be wise with every single dime of it to ensure that we're squeezing everything possible. Yes, it's going to be exquisite systems, but it's also pay for the troops, it's barracks, it's quality of life, it's ensuring those men and women that fly these things and maintain these things are taken care of the way that they should, as President Trump would always expect of me. Which brings me back to looking you in the eye. You are the workers who pour into their lives, and you pour your lives and careers into these planes. The best on the planet. Planes that fly 19,000 you should get to eventually, miles per hour. Ready to go to battle, and then give our pilots an opportunity to come home safe. You're the ones that give them the advantage. And at the War Department, we are creating an environment where you can, just like our warfighters can do your job as quickly and efficiently as possible. But what President Trump says to me every day, and what I say to your leadership every single day, is not fast enough. Just know that what I'm saying to you is what I say to my same staff, what I say to the Pentagon, what I say to our uniform leaders, is the urgency of this moment requires moving as fast as humanly possible. And from our front, as a customer at the Pentagon, means overturning the entire way we do business. Not tinkering on the margins, adding a little bit more manpower here or twisting the process a little bit here, overturning the process to open the aperture of what's possible. Because we can't wait years and spend billions waiting for some perfect solution 15 years in the future and a product that never makes it to the hands of a warfighter. I tell my people every day, do everything you can with the precious moment that we have, gifted by the American people. Rip out the bureaucracy, streamline the process, get the products into the hands of warfighters. A constant and unrelenting war of attrition against the Pentagon bureaucracy. That's my pledge to you. We're changing the game, and urgency is our currency. Speed, efficiency, and competition. The One Big Beautiful Bill also strengthens our defense industrial base by providing a sustained demand signal that we want the best of American innovation and we want it now. In fact, I'm hearing yet another deal will be cut, if not today, soon tomorrow, by Boeing with others to move even more rapidly on exquisite systems that are needed for munitions for the warfighters. We're pushing, your leadership is responding. Responding because Boeing, like everybody else, needs to compete. And that means tough truths to your leaders, to our leaders, and to all defense primes. And President Trump signed an executive order on January 7th, ordering big defense contractors to be held to the highest standards, just like everybody else. The themes are simple. No more excuses. No barriers to entry for big guys or small guys. No more monopolies. No more egregious executive bonuses. No more stock buybacks. No more ridiculous CEO salaries. No more making lots of money while falling behind on product lines. The companies we invest in must prioritize our warfighters. They must put our warfighters first, and they must put you, the workers, first as well. The machinists and the aerospace workers, the workers who build these fantastic fighters in Fighterland, USA. I'm here looking into an audience of American workers who I believe, appreciate the spirit of that executive order that emanated from the resolute desk of the Oval Office. Patriots like our president who are committed to the highest standards, who are committed to American manufacturing and made in America. Because as I said, at the end of the day, I don't care what company is printed on the side of an airframe, on the side of a ship, or inside of a missile. We just want the best. I don't care how many lobbyists or accountants you have. That's one of the virtues of me coming into this position. I didn't work for a big company. I wasn't a general who worked with them. I came at it with a clear set of eyes and a mandate from the president to simply say, on behalf of the taxpayers and the warfighters, incentivize the best. Rip through the process to streamline the best. If you are the best in the world of defense contracting, you are going to win. If you are not, we will make sure you lose. That's President Trump's Department of War. And your leadership knows that it's not about Wall Street, dividends, or stock buybacks. Or at least all CEOs know that now, straight from the mouth of the Commander-in-Chief. It's about the warriors and what we can deliver as fast as possible for them. It's about the workforce. That was the idea we conceived of this at the beginning of this tour. I get a chance, and it's incredible. We've got some warfighters in front of us, some pilots, some sailors, some folks from the Air Force. And I love the visual, because the visual fits. What they do at the tip of the spear on behalf of the American people is they raise their right hand to defend the Constitution and all of us, putting their lives on the line. They're trained, they're lethal, they're ready. We're clearing out the debris for them to make sure they're trained and ready to go. But they quite literally can't do what we ask them to do with all the blue shirts behind them, or in other factory floors, all the hard hats behind them. It's the hard hats that have the backs of the helmets. It's all of you that prop them up so they can do their job on behalf.
Oh, that was War Secretary Pete Hegseth speaking in St. Louis, Missouri, as part of his Arsenal of Freedom tour. He announced Boeing Defense is moving from D.C. to St. Louis. Hegseth framed national security as inseparable from American industry, speaking at the Boeing Defense facility where the new F-47 fighter will be built. And he argued the U.S. must rapidly rebuild its defense industrial base, faster production, fewer bureaucratic delays, and long-term contracts to maintain America First peace through strength. Hegseth stressed how military power ultimately depends on American manufacturing, and he underscored the administration's push to grow both military manpower and industrial capability at the same time.
Right now, inflation was, surprised on the downside, growth surprised on the upside, but didn't surprise the White House either time.
White House economic advisor Kevin Hegseth celebrates rising incomes, onshoring production, and job creation. Today, Hegseth said the U.S. is seeing productivity surges unlike anything we've seen since the 60s. He acknowledged that increased productivity can make it more difficult for new graduates to find jobs. However, Hegseth suggested this productivity boom could lead to interest rate cuts.
Our expectation is that there's a big productivity boom, which gives you high growth and low inflation. And so against that backdrop, we think there's plenty of room for the Fed to cut rates. Okay?
According to surveys from Federal Reserve banks, companies across the country expect inflation to remain subdued this year. Business price expectations could fall to their lowest level since before the 2022 inflation surge under Biden. President Trump is headed to Rome, Georgia, Thursday to highlight his administration's economic wins so far. Well, the 5-day work week is back. Major corporations, including Amazon, JP Morgan, Home Depot, are heavily enforcing 5 days in-person schedules this year, reversing from that pandemic-era hybrid policy. Now, this could lead to increasing amounts of burnout as workers face longer commutes, less flexibility, and uncertainty about work-life balance. For more on this, we're bringing in workplace expert and TEDx speaker, Katie Trowbridge. Katie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here.
What are the biggest mistakes do you think companies are making when enforcing 5-day mandates?
I think the biggest mistake is that they're confusing attendance with productivity. We just heard about how we're at a productivity high. And so I think we need to think about, well, why is that? Right? And just because someone is sitting in a cubicle for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, doesn't necessarily mean that they're being productive. And that's what's key. And I think that, there's a study that just said 1 in 4 people are actually engaged at their job. Well, that's a problem, right? So it's not just about, do we need people to show up and sit at their desk? It's, are they engaged? Are they finding meaning and purpose in their work? So we've got to be really careful not to confuse those things. We see someone working doesn't necessarily mean they are engaged in actually working.
I mean, it depends what industry you're in as well, right?
Absolutely. I think you can't just make a blanket mandate for everyone. I think that there are people who have to be there. For instance, Home Depot, let's take them. They have people that have to be in the store. When I go into Home Depot and I'm looking for somebody and something, I need somebody to be there to help me out, right? But that doesn't mean that maybe the accountants or the engineers or whatever position have to be sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. So I think that it is, we have to be very careful of saying there's one right answer for everyone.
During the pandemic, the remote work was popular. The roads were great, barely any traffic. I see that traffic coming back with a vengeance. Like, it's even worse now. But how does this shift back to the 5 days in office impact employee mental health as well?
And we just did a national study that shows that the number one reason people are not engaged at work and they're not thinking and connecting is because they are mentally exhausted. How can you think deeply and be productive if you're just trying to survive? And that's what overwhelmingly we heard from our study. And I think that that's one of the things we've got to keep in mind. Anytime there is a sudden shift in things, a change, there could be an amount of stress that's coming up. I mean, we're used to having some flexibility. If my child is sick, I can still work from home and take care of my child who's sick. Now I go into the office, not only am I commuting an hour and commuting an hour back, but I've also got to find someone to watch my child. I also have to, or my aging parent or whatever that is. So that causes the stress level to go up. Anxiety can go up. Depression can go up. So we've got to be really careful and think about what it is. And I consistently say, it's not a matter of managing tasks. We've got to be managers of thought. Make sure people are thinking and productive in the right way that is taking care of themselves and that work-life balance that you mentioned.
Right. And sometimes people just have no other choice. They have to shift careers, change it themselves.
Right.
Katie Trowbridge, workplace expert and TEDx speaker, thank you for your insight today. Very interesting.
Thank you.
You got it. Still to come on One American News, the feud between Stephen Colbert and CBS continues. What CBS had to say about his interview with Senate candidate James Tallarico. Plus,